That was a good one. Let's see if we can get an idea for scale. Hey Bob, how you doing? So today, I just saw this guy out. This was one of the alligator snappers that lives in the aquascape stream, and this one was out kind of foraging around, eating some acorns and stuff. So I figured I would grab it while I had a chance to get a good look at it. I do like a little health inspection in the fall before winter, and then because I'm leaving for Thailand in a couple weeks, I won't be home for about a month. So I just like to look and see how everything is doing, how their health looks and everything before I'm gone. So yeah, just figured I'd get a hold of this guy, and we're just gonna give him a once over and maybe answer some questions about alligator snapping turtles while I got one handy. So if anybody has any, we can get into that. Otherwise, I'm just gonna talk about some of the things I look at. First off, carapace, the most obvious part of a turtle. I make sure there's no wounds, there's no soft spots, no peeling scutes. Alligator snapping turtles and snapping turtles don't shed scutes, so you shouldn't see any scutes peeling off of them. If there is, then that means there's an issue going on with the shell. All the scutes look really good. Because the aquascape pond is rock, if you look like on this scute right here, you'll see a little bit of scrape damage, and that's actually really normal. These guys go and wedge themselves under rocks and stuff, and you can see it's not really a wound, it's just a superficial scrape in the keratin that covers the bone of the shell. So their shells are covered in keratin, same material as our fingernails, and it kind of grows as the turtle grows, and it can be kind of a thick layer, and then if some gets scraped off, it'll actually grow it back. And when you see like wild alligator snappers, especially where I live, where there's a lot of rock, granite, sandstone, you'll see this exact same thing on a lot of them, and that's normal. That's part of the wear and tear that these guys go through in the wild. So actually makes me really happy to see it on one that I have in loosely captivity. So yeah, it's been using all the cave system they had built into this pond and just doing normal alligator snapper stuff. Shell looks good. So then the next thing I'm going to look at the eyes. Eyes look good, nice and clear. Both eyes are clear. And then obviously they make it really easy to see inside the mouth. So I don't see any infections inside the mouth. There's no like discharge or anything like that. Nothing swollen. The only thing I would say I do see is right in front of his lure, he does have a colony of young turtle leeches. And this is actually very normal. I don't really stress on turtle leeches because they kind of feed, drop off. They don't ever really actually hurt the turtle. And if you have turtles outdoors, especially aquatics, you're not going to not have turtle leeches. They found a good little spot inside the mouth to feed, and they'll kind of come and go over time. I've noticed in the winter, they kind of disappear. I don't think they die, but I think they do go dormant. But I'm not too worried about those turtle leeches. So next thing I'm going to move on to is we're looking at limbs. Front feet look good, claws look good. We're gonna prop you up on my leg here. All right, plastron looks good. I don't see any injuries, anything pink or raw. I do see some rubbing. That light yellow is some rubbing. Again, very normal for a turtle that lives in a rocky or gravel environment. The keratin over the plastron is much thinner, and the plastron actually stays fairly soft. Even at this size, it's not fully ossified. And that means, filled with bone. So this turtle still has a long way to go towards maturity. And Has kind of a long precloacal tail length, and that's the length from the end of the plastron all the way down to the cloaca. And this one being a juvenile, at that precloacal tail length, I'm kind of leaning young male. Don't know for sure, but rear feet look good. Cloaca actually looks good. And then into the tail, there's no injuries, nothing broken. So overall, looks like this guy's doing really good in here. A little light on weight, but within normal range. And that's because I can compare this turtle's weight to turtles that I catch that are around the same size in the wild and look at their weights. And this one's a little bit leaner, but I'm not too worried about it because sometimes I get them in the wild and they weigh like half this guy's weight and they're still healthy. So there's a lot of fluctuation in how much they can weigh. All right, so he's good to go. So we'll see if we can get into some of your questions. Can you pet that dog? Yeah, it's really easy, just like that. So yeah, if you ever come across an alligator snapper, you're safe anywhere in this range. I'm glad I'm your favorite channel, man. I'm doing my best. What's up, Nee? What's up, Julie in Illinois? Shimsu, Chris, Cody, Refun, Bob Rutledge. Who else is on? Do I ever plan on introducing the hybrids to my alligator snappers? Plan on like trying to breed them or anything. My largest hybrid actually lives in an in-ground pond in the back corner, back over there. And it's actually in there with an alligator snapper, and they kind of, avoid each other for the most part. But, neither of them are mature enough to breed. And I definitely don't want to try and breed a hybrid back to anything. And reptiles are interesting in that, with mammals, you get hybrids and they're usually sterile, but I think we've seen with Siamese crocs and hybridized, snakes and things like that, that they actually can reproduce. So if you do have hybrid, turtles, you definitely want to be, pretty responsible with, whatever your plans are with them. Hopefully that answers your question. But the other hybrids I have, I keep separated from, Calidra and Macrocheles. Glad you like turtles, man. I like them too. It's a lot of work. As you can see, based on the ground, it's fall. Leaves are falling off the trees. Some of the plants are starting to kind of cull back now that we're getting into the 50s and 60s overnight. The turtles are kind of on their last big hoorah before winter. And that'll go on really into November here where I'm at in Atlanta. But they're really, trying to feed, trying to mate. I went out the other night. I'm not going to be able to get any trapping in before I leave. So I went out the other night and I actually saw a male alligator snapper pursuing a female, which was pretty cool to see. He was chasing her across the creek. She was trying to get away. And but they were moving super fast. Most people think of them as being really slow, but they were both booking it down the middle of the creek, swimming fast like a cooter or a slider. Do I plan on letting my daughter get involved? She's been out with me. She went with me on a mission to recover my GoPro. So she's been out at field places. She's still young. I mean, she's not even 2 years old yet. So it's not like there's a lot she can do yet. But she's also in the yard with me. She helps feed the turtles. I mean, she's got a whole routine. She'll grab the food and just kind of go all around to each little setup and toss food in there, whether they like it or not. So I think she kind of likes doing everything I do. And I think that's kind of the nature of kids until they reach a certain age. So if she wants to be involved, man, I would love to have her along. I mean, she's cool and she's funny. So yeah, if she wants to help out and do stuff, I'm 100% down for that. Took her out to the skate park yesterday for the first time, and that was actually really fun. Thailand is mostly just hang out with in-laws, travel around. We're going to go see some islands, some beaches. I mean, it's kind of funny because mostly you go over there and you're just eating, and then you're preparing to eat the next thing. And then after that, you're preparing to eat the next thing. So it's kind of a lot of eating and traveling, but I want to do some skateboarding. And I know enough after my last 2 trips where the turtles are and where the herps are. So I definitely am planning on doing a lot of herping and trying to find some turtles and snakes and monitor lizards, all that stuff. So I'm going to try and post regular shorts and reels. I'll try to go live. I don't even know if that'll be possible. And then I have CapCut on my phone for editing, so I will try to post 5 to 8 minute long, like, kind of normal full videos. Even though nobody watches those anymore, I'm still going to try and post them. So I leave October 28th and I get back November 26th. So yeah, I'm still trying to arrange who's going to take care of some of my stuff and getting everything ready for me to be gone, that long. For the most part, turtles like this guy, they just exist in here on their own. You can see, if you look in there, you can see little corbicula clams, and there's a mussel shell right there. So they have things they can forage on in here, just like they would in the wild. So yeah, I'm up on all my shots. Thailand, I don't even really think requires any, but yeah, trust me, after the rabies scenario last year, I've had just about every shot they can throw at you. So yeah, that was that was fun. How do I keep the pH in my ponds down? I mean, I don't really have to do much. I mean, if you look, I don't try to clean the leaves out. In fact, when the leaves fall in the autumn and the fall, I let them accumulate in the bottom, and then they act as kind of insulation. And you can see down here, you can't really see the gravel because that stuff's building up on the bottom. And having those leaves in there kind of softens the water quality. There's also a bunch of logs and wood in here, and this particular pond does not run real high on the pH scale. And most of the water that gets added to it is just rainwater. Yeah. I mean, I'm used to holding them, and these guys are actually really easy. So I don't really, I forget that this is not normal human behavior. This is like weird stuff that I do, but yeah. I don't know. Yeah, there you go. Gotta put them up on my knee. They're a little more comfortable if you can do that. With the bigger ones, you can't really do that. But yeah, so I'd try to make sure everything's pretty much set. Yeah, so I guess your pH issue could be, your water source. Are you adding from the tap? Are you adding from well water? These are mostly rainwater. And then occasionally, I mean, if we're really desperate, I'll add from the tap, but I run it through the wetland filter. And so it has to go through a ton of plants, trickle down through a ton of plants, plant roots, logs. And then so by the time it reaches the bottom and it's gone through the cycle a bit, it softens down. And all that stuff kind of gets absorbed into the filtration system and the bacteria. Yeah, this healthy turtle. You can see the tubercles on the head and neck, on the legs. See the eyelashes they have to kind of help disguise the eye right there. Jaw surfaces, and you can see those lines around the top edge of the upper jaw. And that's actually just like the carapace has growth lines, there's actually growth lines on the edge of the upper jaw, because that's just like the rest of them, that's a layer of keratin. So because turtles don't have teeth, they just have bony jaws and a beak, like birds, it's covered in keratin. So it's actually a superior form of dentation, I guess is the word, because unlike teeth, which wear out and kind of get bad as you get old, keratin actually is constantly replacing itself. So those are the growth lines of the keratin. And so you look on the inside of the jaw and it creates like a surface for crushing things. And you can see, on the lower jaw, you can see the lines right there. And that's where, those are the new layers forming. And so you can see it runs in a line under the eye. And so that's where all the new layers are forming and kind of gradually pushing out towards the edge of the jaw. All right, so we'll put this guy back in the pond and keep answering some alligator snapper questions. Here you go, bro. It's okay. He's got a cave under this rock I'm sitting on. But he may elect just to bury himself under some of that detritus. Or go for that corner. Sometimes he sits in that corner just like that, and Sits real still, pretends to be a log. Oh, here we go. You gonna get a breath? You gonna look around? Yep. He's just doing his thing. So yeah. Yeah, so yeah, if you can add peat to, especially where your filtration is, and you run your water through some peat, that'll soften it down for you like really, really well. And kind of drop that pH level. For some reason, people got this idea that all animals need like higher pH levels in whether it's aquariums or ponds or whatever. And a lot of turtle species are actually in water that's a lot lower on the pH scale, like 7 and below. And they actually do better like that. I mean, not to say there aren't turtles that do good on the higher end, but most turtles, because they're burying into leaves and they're in logs and, kind of existing in the shallower edge parts of the habitat or in oxbows, that's where all the kind of woody debris and leaves and muck is going to be. And that stuff's going to have a lower pH microclimate in the water, if that makes sense. Thank you, Bob, dude. Appreciate that, man, for giving out the memberships. Oh yeah, man. They love blueberries. They love, this time of year I'm giving them things like acorns and stuff. They love to eat those. My snappers will eat apples, persimmons. In the wild, we'll actually set traps near persimmon trees this time of year when we were doing our surveys. And you're almost guaranteed to get, a pretty good sized alligator snapper setting a trap near a persimmon tree because they love to eat those things. Yeah, this is a lily. Now, what I like is the roots, because the times when I do have hatchlings in here, I can just stand on that rock and kind of go through those roots and find hatchlings in there. But so far this year, have not found hatchlings in here. Sometimes it takes till really for spring for me to find them, or they get laid in the ground October, November, and then hatch in the spring. The babies overwinter in the nest. So persimmons, what do they taste like? Kind of in between a peach and a plum, I think. In between a peach and a plum is, I think, the best way to describe the taste of a persimmon. I'm not real good at describing the flavors of fruit, but if I had to, that would probably be my best descriptor. Calendars for next year. I don't think I'm going to have time. This year, I was so focused on wrapping up the work with the Swaniensis surveys, and then also, doing things with my daughter and stuff, that I didn't shoot as many photos this year to build a calendar. Typically in the past when I've done those calendars, it's everything I shot in the not 12 months, but in the months leading up to putting out the calendar, towards the end of the year. So if I were to put out a calendar this year, it would either be a greatest hits of things that I did on previous ones, or it would be alternate shots from previous ones, or it would be me digging in the archives of stuff I shot, over the last couple of years, and probably 4 or 5 years. But for me, for my ADHD, I think I want it to be new. I want it to be never seen and brand new, and I just didn't really have much opportunity to do that. I think I maybe shot 3 or 4 snappers max this year, and that was kind of it. I took some snake photos a couple weeks ago. So yeah, I want to do calendars. I love putting them out. I love the idea that people would have them even hanging on their wall, but I just don't think it's going to work out this year. I thought about doing prints, but every time I offer prints, nobody actually gets them. Everybody says they want a print and then ghosts. It's kind of like Facebook Marketplace. Yeah, this year was a lot of field work. It was very field work heavy, spring to about July. And that was wrapping up Swaniensis. That was kicking off Upper Flint surveys, and then kind of the other miscellaneous field stuff. And then also trying to squeeze in just my enjoyable field herping for creating videos and hanging out with Noah and Christian and people like that. So yeah, like it was really heavy on field stuff up until July. And, you know, my contract is over for Swaniensis. So now I'm trying to see if I can get any other kind of contract or funding. You know, it'd be nice if I could get my Upper Flint stuff fully funded. And then this way, you know, I'm not paying out of pocket for bait and gas. And, you know, it's expensive to do that stuff. So we'll see. Has the Aquascape? Yeah, the Aquascape liner, like in this one, is held up because I've talked about this before. It's got a sandwich, so you have underlayment, then the liner, then underlayment, and then we also went heavy on gravel as much as we could. We did like flat rocks at the corners. So the only places that I think there's only one spot where the liner is exposed for some reason up there where it's shallow. It actually, the gravel just keeps washing out and it's just bare liner. And I keep covering it up, but it keeps kind of coming undone. There's a yellow jacket nest here, so I'm gonna be kind of careful showing you this. But right there, you can kind of see that's the bare liner. I'm gonna get away from that yellow jacket nest. I want to do GPS, you know, tracking tags. Those are super expensive, and to do those, you really have to kind of get the funding for them. And we had talked about trying to do it with females so that we can see where the female Swaniensis are nesting, and that'll help determine for the Fish and Wildlife Service to figure out what kind of buffer zone is okay for people to, you know, have a farm that backs up to the river, or if somebody's going to develop something or build a bridge, you want to know how far the turtles are averaging, you know, traveling to nest. Luckily, alligator snappers don't go very far from the water. They're looking for like a really steep bank, but we really needed to get some trackers to figure that out. And we just kind of ran out of survey years to do it. So I think we're still trying to talk ourselves into a way of being able to do it. I helped out with Florida Fish and Wildlife down there, Florida's FWC. They actually do have trackers on some of the turtles, and that's really cool. My inside the house reptiles. So this time of year, that's just snakes. And they're doing fine. They're, you know, just being snakes. It got chilly last night, and I went down there this morning, and it was funny because they were all kind of buried under their substrate and with just their heads sticking out. And I was like, oh, you guys got a little chilly, so you got cozy. It was kind of funny. Especially like pine snakes and bull snakes, because they have such little heads. They're just like their little heads poking out, and then you can see like the fat rest of their body. And it's just like, you guys are weird. There's a Gulf Coast box over here. These guys don't mind the cold. They don't mind drought. They don't mind wet weather. I mean, these are really just the toughest box turtles. And you can see there's a male right there in front of that stick, just his head sticking out. Young male. He's a young male, but he's the biggest one. She's a pretty girl over there. Yeah, I don't have lizards. I had the, I don't know, the hybrid Lewisii. I forget what they call them, but yeah, he just died one day. I don't know what happened. Now that I have the 3 alligators and all the turtles, I kind of am maxed out, you know, now that I have a child. I'm kind of maxed out on what my bandwidth is on taking care of things, and I don't want to add more stuff that's going to take away from the things I already have or take away from family and all that stuff. So, you know, if anything, I'd rather downsize. So lizards are definitely on hold for a while, and then the alligators themselves are a handful and will increase in size and becoming more and more of a handful. So I've kind of looked at that like, okay, these guys are going to carve out an even bigger kind of spot in my care over the next years. So I really need to kind of build around that, if that makes sense. How does winterizing yearling alligator snapping turtles go for me? How cold does it get there, and how long do they brumate? How do I I know everybody wants me to have these really specific kind of answers on that. I just leave them outside. So the setup, we'll walk over here. The setup for my yearling alligator snappers is a tough stuff tub, and it's heavily planted, has like plant roots and stuff in it. And I don't really do much other than just, there's some sand in there, there's substrate, there's the plant roots, and they just, over winter, they just disappear. And then in the spring, they pop back up. Like right now, there's some stuff on here because it's been dry. I think that's some, oh, look, that's one right there. There he goes. Oh, let me see if I can get him. There we go. There you go. That's a yearling. So yeah, they just live in this, and I don't really do much for them, and they just kind of do their thing, and they just be little alligator snappers. So the coldest it gets here, I mean, it'll get into the teens like overnight. This will never freeze solid, so there will be, sometimes maybe even that much ice. They just slow their heart rate down, and they just don't really need oxygen. If I get really paranoid, I can hook up a, like a bubbler, and, they'll do fine on just a bubbler. There's also, let's see if we can find one. I've got some musk turtles I hatched out in here too, because they do well in the same setup. I just don't see them right now. It was chilly, so I think a lot of this stuff actually got pretty deep into the plant roots in the bottom. And then, I've got kind of this, like, kind of creates shade. So in the summer, this doesn't get too hot. This whole kind of hanging plant thing helps pretty good. And then over here, let's see, I've got an alligator snapper in here that's a little older. My plants are looking kind of dingy in here. Let's see if we can find this guy. We'll see. It's hard to find stuff once the leaves get in here, but it's natural, so they do good in it. Are you gonna be a no-show? I mention you and then you're a no-show. That's how it goes. But yeah, so this is another example of what I'll keep. So you go from like yearling to a little bit bigger. So this is one that was given to me, as a juvenile, because that's what people do. They get them. They don't really do much. People get bored of them. So I just keep them in like a big planted stock tank like this, and, it does pretty well. Let's see. Yeah, it got cold last night. I mean, cold 60s, but it's enough to have stuff bury itself. So I don't see anything right now. But yep. Yeah, kids and animals. Never work with kids and animals. Exactly. Yeah, I've been walking through these. See if it'll focus on it. There you go. There you go, our non-native spider. Hi. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. Is there a tortoise in here today? Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Let's see, anything under here? This is a good flip for frogs. Nope. Yeah, so that's kind of what I got. I do have to shoot a wedding later today, so I got to start getting ready for that. But just wanted to jump on, kind of go over a little bit of alligator snapping turtle stuff. Maybe we'll do another one of these, in a week or so before I leave. And we can kind of maybe start doing lives where I talk about maybe a specific type of turtle, and we just kind of do some Q&A on that. I watch like the videos of Chris and Gabby, Gator Boys Chris, and he does like really good live videos where he answers people's questions and is able to kind of sit there with the animal they're talking about and go in depth. So not that I'm trying to copycat that, I just think it's a great idea, and I think it's a great format for being able to kind of go in depth about the things that you guys want to know. So yeah, that's kind of my idea. I want to try and do it as much as I can when I can. So thank you guys for joining me on this live. I'll see y'all next time. Take care. Peace.